Alright, well, let's get this started. So back in early 2020, I think it was around March that it started, it came out of absolutely nowhere, and nobody could have warned us about it. So my story begins way back in high school when I was in my junior year. I took a German class for the first time, and so of course that made me want to go visit Germany. Eventually, years after graduating, after getting my stuff from college and continuing on with that, I scheduled a trip to Germany, bought my flights, bought the hotels, scheduled tours, everything. It was absolutely not cheap, but I finally went on it in March 2020, the worst possible time to have chosen. And I was going completely alone. It was my first time on a plane. I just went full send. I finally get over there after like 12, no, probably 15 hours of flying. Get off the plane, go to the underground train or whatever it's called in Munich, Germany. Go on the train, finally get off in the city, get to my hotel, check in, get some of my money exchanged so I had some euros instead of dollars. But I get into my hotel at maybe 2, 3 p.m. their time, take a really nice nap because I haven't slept in a while, and I woke up at, I think it was like 4 a.m. their time, so I guess I slept for a really long time. But I woke up to about 20 texts on my phone from everybody that I knew, all telling me the same thing: get home now or you're not going to be able to. Like, wait, what the hell is going on here? So apparently that was the exact date that COVID was starting and the travel ban was issued, especially going from one country to another. So I was forced to pack up all my shit right then and there, go straight back to the airport, and paid an extra $700 for a flight directly home. To say that was a buzzkill is a huge understatement. That trip costed me over 3 grand, all just shit away. And since that was my first time officially traveling, I was absolutely not satisfied with that, as you can imagine. I think it was a couple months later, maybe like 3 months later, me and my group of friends at the time planned a trip to Utah because one of my friends had a cabin up there. We got all our stuff packed, planned it for like a month or two before, and then we all drove there, maybe 8 hours around there. Finally got there, stayed in the cabin. It was a great week. We did a ton of stuff there. Crawled through caves, worked like around the property because it was his grandparents' cabin. We went fishing, had campfires most of the nights, and all sat out there and ate food together. A bunch of stuff. It was all a pretty good time. That was sad to leave. That was an absolutely beautiful place. We went to Zion National Park, the only national park that I've ever went to. Even to this day, after all that I've done since, Zion, going through the Narrows and the canyons, was the most beautiful thing that I think I've ever seen. Like, we were hiking through a river the whole time, and I'm not a hiker, so it sucked ass majorly. But the sights around there were absolutely amazing. I've never been to another national park since, but that's one place that I would love to go back to. But after that trip lasted about a week. And then as we came back, I think about a month later, me and two of those friends and one of their dads, we planned a very last minute weekend trip to Mexico. And since we're in Southern California, we just drove down there like 2 hours, 3 hours, drove across the border. Took a while to get through because, Mexico California border is pretty ass. But we stayed at a hotel down there throughout the, I think, 2 or 3 days that we were there. We explored Tijuana, Rosarito, Ensenada, Popotla, La Misión, and it was my first time in Mexico, so that was very different than it is in California, that's for sure. It was a huge culture shock, but everyone was still super nice over there. It didn't seem as sketchy as most people think it does. There were a ton of memories made on that trip, both good and bad, and just interesting, I guess, but definitely going down in the history books. But since that was a short trip, we obviously came back just a few days later. I was immediately wondering about new things that I could do. It was still during COVID, so there was a lot of free time. So I got into some of my old hobbies. I started doing BMX dirt jumps for the first time because I used to ride regular BMX on streets with friends. But I wanted to finally try dirt jumps, so that was something that I started doing every week for a couple months, I want to say. until one time it was way too wet there to even ride, so we wasted a trip, and it didn't get rid of my interest, but I just haven't really gone back since. But in addition to that, I also bought a slackline as an impulse buy on Amazon for like 60 bucks, I think. For a while, I was going to the park every week and doing that with some of my friends. And although it's incredibly hard, it's way harder than you would think it would be. That was a lot of fun just hanging out there at the park, trying to do a slackline, failing repeatedly. And then even when we made it like halfway across, it was like, oh man, that was really stupid. But yeah, so after that, another couple weeks later, it was January 2021 by this time. So me and two of my friends, my current friends, we went to Big Bear for some of our first time snowboarding. I think we went to Snow Summit, which in retrospect was not the best place to choose because it's really big, and I learned that the hard way. Most of the day we were on the, I think they call them bunny slopes or practice hills or whatever, since it was my first time. And eventually I started getting the hang of it. Of course, repeated falling. I don't have any footage because I was using my GoPro the whole time trying to get a good video of my first time snowboarding, and I think I got some pretty good ones. But at the end of the day, one of our other friends showed up, and I tried going down the whole mountain, the big part. So we took the ski lift up to the very top. I went for it, but me being a beginner, I've skated in the past, so I know how to swerve, I know how to carve through it, but I don't know how to brake because your shoes are locked in. And I was getting way too much speed, fell repeatedly. I kept getting up, I wanted to do better, I wanted to learn. One of the falls that I had, I was carving towards my front side, and the back of my board got caught in the snow and just whipped me back of the head first to the ground. I got a concussion for one. Even worse than that, at least financially worse than that, my GoPro Hero 8 Black flew out of my pocket along with the memory card that was in it, of course, the waterproof case that I had on it, and the tripod that it was attached to. Flew out of my pocket. I immediately got up and looked for it, and I'm pretty sure someone stole it because I walked up and down that mountain more than once, and it just did not exist. So that was the last time that I snowboarded, that day at least. Walked back down the hill, met up with my friends, and by that time they were about ready to leave too, because we were there for like 6 to 7 hours, I think. So we all went back to the hotel that we were staying at just for the night. It wasn't snowing that bad during the night. Went and got some food, chilled out in the hotel, drank quite a bit, just having a good time, playing some games. We woke up in the morning, Jesus, it was a blizzard. There was at least like 2 feet of snow on the floor. We were up to our knees in snow. The truck that we were driving had layers and layers and layers on it. Trying to get down the mountain in heavy snow like that, it's very rare that I'm ever scared or like anxious being in a car because I trust the driver. In this case, I did trust the driver, but with that much snow, slipping and sliding all over the road, that was absolutely terrifying. And I'm just glad we made it down. It took us way longer than it should have, but in a 2-wheel drive Tacoma that's not meant for that, that was a challenge. I just sat in the back seat, like, scared most of the time. But we made it down, and I am very impressed with how my friend did. So, Steve, if you're watching this, I am very proud of you for getting us home safe. Alright, now that all the little trips are out of the way, let's get to the big exciting stuff. I scheduled a trip with a company called EF Ultimate Brake because I'd seen their ads online. The place that I chose was a very last minute decision, but I went to Belize. Let me just tell you, that was the best decision I've ever made. Like, I have a lot of places on my list that I want to go visit. Belize was not originally one of them because it's just a smaller country. I had more fun there than I ever dreamed that I would. I went with a group of around 20 people that I'd never met because it's just everybody that's scheduled to go that week all goes together. So you go with a bunch of strangers when you're solo traveling. I ended up becoming great friends with every single person there. And I'm very thankful for all of them. Even the tour guides, the bus driver, they were all great people. We drank way more than we should have throughout the week, and it made us very comfortable with everybody. But we did everything you can think of over there. We did zip lining through the trees. We did canoeing along a river. We did cave tubing. We ate a lot of pretty good food. We stayed at some pretty nice places right on the beach a couple times. We visited Belize City, Placencia, and I'll put the other ones on screen, but I forgot the names for right now. Everywhere that we went, man, like everything that we did there was just a dream come true. Like, it was a decently expensive trip, about the same as I spent for Germany, but this 10 days that I was there was absolutely unforgettable. I think one of the highlights being one of the days that we went snorkeling. It wasn't the greatest experience. The time that I went snorkeling in Catalina, which I'll get to later, was much better. When I went to Belize, and I think it was called the Hol Chan Marine Reserve. So we went there. There was a large sea turtle that was swimming around with us, and it was not scared of us whatsoever. It chased me around, and I got up close and personal with it. Sea turtles are beautiful animals. I'd never seen one in real life, but that was one thing that I was really looking forward to going over there. There was a lot of smaller fish too and everything, and I tried free diving a little bit deeper. I can't, and I learned that now. I absolutely can't free dive because my head feels like it's going to explode. But even the guides on that tour were awesome. They gave us a ton of drinks on the way back. We stopped at a restaurant on the beach and had more drinks, and we were that loud table that everybody else in the restaurant hates. But that day continued. We went back to the hotel and just kept drinking basically. We went in the pool that they had, which was by far the biggest and nicest pool that I've ever seen. But kept drinking that day, just had fun that night, chilled. And then the next day, we basically just did that same thing all day. We started on the beach right there. They had some paddle boards for us to rent, volleyball nets, everything that you can think of. And it's all free because we're part of the hotel. Now getting to the very memorable part of this trip. Since we were drinking so much, obviously we were being loud and stupid in the pool. At one point, I brought home a souvenir permanently that I didn't expect. So I got the bright idea, okay, maybe if I lay on the side of the pool and slide in like a seal, that'd be fun, right? Yeah, well, I did that. I was being a complete dumbass, slid into the pool face first, arms behind me, went straight to the bottom, and came up dripping blood. I hit my forehead right on the bottom of the pool, and because I was drunk, I thought nothing of it. It didn't even hurt, nothing. No headache, no concussion, no anything. But I came up above water. Everybody looked at me. They're like, Nick, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. What about you? And then that's when they told me I was bleeding down my face. I like touched the side of my face and there was blood all over my hand. Like, oh wow, would you look at that? I am bleeding. So they took me out. I sat by the side of the pool with some of the, not paramedics, but the, I guess, local hotel medics or whatever. They gave my friends that I was with the gauze, the bandages. They wrapped up my head and it looked like I had brain surgery. Even the whole time that that was happening, like wrapping up my head, even when I was getting hurt, dude, I had the biggest smile on my face. Like, it was such a good time. And like, they look at me weird for it. Dude, that whole trip, like, I had no negative thoughts, no negative emotions the entire time. Like, even as stuff like that was happening. Even chilling on the bus, like during the long drives, I just had my headphones in. I was listening to sad music, just looking out the window while it was raining. Even then, like, sad music just didn't do anything. I was just having the time of my life. So over in Belize, in order to get to Belize from where I live at least, you need to get a negative COVID test just to go there. And once you're over there, they have a very strict mask policy, even this deep into it, like a year and a half after COVID started. Their rules are basically you have to wear one outside at all times or else it's an instant $500 fine. And their curfew is also very strict. You can also get that $500 fine if you're even out past 9 o'clock. 9 p.m., that's so early. So as soon as 9 p.m. hit every night, we basically just had to stay in our hotels. Thank God the group that I was with was awesome, so we just had after parties every night in someone's room. Everybody goes to one room, have some drinks, play games. We were basically all together for the entire week that we were there. Plenty of interesting memories. Um, Being in a room full of drunk people is hilarious. Things got broken, people were dancing. Even I was taught how to belly dance, which is something that I never would have done. And on the last night that we were there for the going away party, we had a pretty decent dinner. They gave us a bunch of free drinks, and that was when everybody got really drunk. I got drunk enough to sing karaoke for the first time in my life, and it wasn't just one song, it was every song that came on. And I think two or three of those songs, I was actually the one with the microphone singing over the speaker. And I am absolutely not going to post that video, but of course, all good things have to come to an end. So eventually, that trip came to an end. We all went to the airport. It was very sad saying goodbye to most people one by one. But me and I think four others flew most of the way home together. We went to Denver for our layover from Belize. Stayed there for a couple hours. It took hours to go through customs, so thank God we had a long layover. But after finally getting through customs, which I realized that the Denver airport is just complete ass. But on the way home, me and three others went through LAX. It's where we landed. It's where we came from. Saying goodbye to them was very hard. But one of them has actually come and visit me at my work since then, and that was really cool to see her again. I want to see the rest of them again too, but obviously they live all over the country, so it'd be a couple trips to kind of go see all of them. But I definitely have some lifelong friends now, and I'm sure I'll see a good amount of them in the future. I already have plans to travel with a couple more. Although that was absolutely the trip of my life, there is still, I believe, two more things that have happened since then, or one that has happened, one that's about to. So 2 days ago, I went with a company called Jet Ski to Catalina, which the name tells you exactly what it was, but I jet skied from Long Beach, California to Catalina Island, which is about 30 miles across the ocean. It took us around 3 hours to get there, because we made a couple stops. We went through a cave, swam through a cave. Dude, jet skis are brutal. Like, I'd never been on one before. This is my first time, and it was a huge bucket list item to do. Especially jet skiing across the ocean. Like, that's totally awesome. And tons of dolphins along the way there. I actually eventually got sick of seeing dolphins because there were so many. But we finally made it to the island. I had 2 hours around to walk around, look at the island, hike up a trail, and I went to the little town that was there called Two Harbors. Very small town. All that's really there is like a restaurant, a general store, and then a bunch of rentals for obviously the water surrounding the island. I realize now that place is very popular with hikers because people go and do the Trans Catalina Trail, which is, I think it said 38 miles around the whole island. And there's just campgrounds everywhere. Everybody that was in that town had a hiking backpack and was just exploring with their friends. I eventually went back to the beach after exploring a little bit, back to the beach where everybody was hanging out, where we landed. They had free snorkeling supplies for us if we wanted to go in the water, check out the wildlife. Instead of doing that, chilled on the beach, and one of the guides asked me, "Hey, you want to go jump off a cliff?" Like, hell yeah, I do. So we walk up along this little trail barefoot. My feet were burning this whole time, and I didn't even think about that before I did it. But we jumped off this around 20-foot cliff, and that one wasn't too bad. There was just a rock right below us, so we had to jump out pretty far. Couldn't do any flips or anything, and it was pretty shallow, so we just kind of had to be careful with it. But then we went to a little bit smaller, around 10-foot cliff, maybe even less than that, and that's the one that we were like doing backflips off of. The guides that were there were awesome. He was like doing flips with us, having conversations about cameras, GoPros, and just traveling in general, really. We went back to the beach, we got on the jet skis again, and made our way back home. We went a lot faster this time, a lot less stops. Took us about 2 hours to get back. The waves are brutal, dude. Like, holding on so tight to the grips, which have no padding, they're just hard plastic. Gripping those things like your life depends on it. And I have actual bleeding calluses on my palms from gripping those things so hard. But it was absolutely worth it though, because everybody that I told and the pictures that I posted, everyone that saw, were completely jealous of jet skiing across the ocean to an island with dolphins and a bunch of people that I'd never met before. I would absolutely ride another jet ski. I think they're a ton of fun. On a flat lake, it would be the easiest thing in the world, but on the ocean with big waves going between 30 and 50 miles an hour, you get some air. And with air comes big ass impacts repeatedly for hours. It was not uncommon to be going 35 plus, hit a wave, and travel about 10 to 20 feet before you hit the water again. And those crashes hurt. There was actually one time I got some decent air. I think my handlebars turned a little bit to the side before I landed. So when I landed, I got thrown off one side, just shit whipped to the water, and had to swim like 50 feet, or in the deep ocean that you can't even see the bottom, all the way back to my jet ski because it had kind of run away from me. And it's not really a big deal, but my glasses are now at the bottom of the ocean. Good thing I got them on Amazon for like 10 bucks. I originally bought them for Belize expecting to lose them. I mean, no loss really. It would have been much worse if I had my better glasses with me. Even the drive home after that, everything hurt so bad. As I'm recording this now and editing the video, in about 2 to 3 weeks from now, I'm going to be moving to Boise, Idaho. I'm really looking to start my new life there. I'm 23 right now, and of course it'll be sad to move away from most of my friends and family. I feel like I need to move on with my life. I plan to travel a lot more in the future. Doing these awesome trips during COVID, it made me realize the traveler mindset and how everybody that does this stuff is just one big family. Everybody that I've met and all these different things that I've done are unforgettable, and it makes me want to do it so much more, not even just to travel to these new places and see these new places worldwide. The people that you meet in these other countries, even in the same country, just exploring. It's really insane, like learning everybody's stories too. Anything to make memories. That's really all I care about. I would rather pay for an experience of a lifetime, even if it doesn't go right, like when I went to Munich. All these things that I do will make lifelong memories that's all I'm gonna have when I'm old. I realize I went a little bit off topic and didn't talk too much about the pandemic during all of this. At all these places, we did have to wear a mask. Most of them didn't require the vaccine. Everything was way more dead than it should have been. I can imagine these places when they're completely poppin'. I'm very lucky to have gone when I did, because everything's so much more chill and people are much more relaxed. All in all, the pandemic really does suck. There's a lot of stuff that everybody has missed out on. Losing jobs, losing housing, everything that you can think of, even getting arrested for not wearing a mask. I feel like everybody grew at least a little bit during all of this. Everybody got to realize who they really are and what they really enjoy in life. I know for a fact that I did, and it completely changed me. I would not be the same person if all of this didn't happen. I don't regret anything. I am glad the way that everything turned out. And now that COVID is basically behind us for the most part, it still exists, of course, but the pandemic lifestyle and the quarantine is mostly done now. And hopefully soon everybody can go back to their normal lives and everybody will get back to doing what they love. Actually, before I go, one more thing that I want to say real quick. Advice that I want to give is don't be scared to travel. If you really want to go somewhere and you think, oh, this guy just went to Belize. I've always wanted to go there. I wish I could do that. You can. That's all it takes. Just do it. I was absolutely terrified to go on some of these trips completely by myself, but it turned out being the absolute experience of a lifetime, and I would not change a single thing about anything that happened. I've been saying this for years to everybody that I ever drink with, everybody that I have a beer with. It's not what you're drinking, it's the people you're drinking with. And I would get that tattooed on my body along with all of my other things that I have. It 100% stands. Just get out there, do whatever you love, and make friends along the way. And I guess that's all I really wanted to say for now. Just wanted to end off on a good note. All right, see you in the next one.